If you want more people to agree with you, then sit down and stay tuned, because in this video, I'm going to share 7 NLP techniques to make people agree with you more. Hey guys, my name is Paul Macetta, and I am a researcher and a publisher in the field of human communication. So if you like learning about things like overcoming resistance, overcoming objections, building rapport, and human communication, then consider subscribing to the channel and make sure you hit that bell notification so you get updated when I release more videos like this. So the first NLP hack that I'm going to share with you today is echoing the other person's language, which simply means you use the same terms and phrases and words that that person uses when they communicate. So here's what's really cool about NLP. NLP leverages the stuff that we already do habitually and organically by nature, but it just enables us to be cognizant of it and use it with more of an application where we are using it purposefully. So if you pay attention to the way that you communicate with a friend that you've known for a very long time, you will notice that when you communicate with that person, you guys tend to do this by nature organically anyway. You tend to use terms, words, and phrases. Think of inside jokes. There are words, terms, phrases, jokes, concepts, ideas that you only use when you communicate with that person. This is a natural byproduct of a deep relationship and a true rapport that you have built with someone else. So the key to using it effectively is to apply it with people that you might not have that rapport with just yet. You see, the principles don't know the difference between how long you've known somebody or how much rapport you have with them. The principles just work. And so when you communicate with somebody that you do have a deep rapport with, you're going to be using similar language than them. So if you want to create rapport and get people to agree with you, you need to use similar language, the same type of language that they are using. And if you want to create rapport fast, you need to pay attention to the language that other people use when you communicate with them and start using that language back to them. Now listen, I'm not saying you should be a parrot and every time the person says the word soda, you say the word soda. Or every time the person says conveniently, you use the word conveniently, right? Because that's obviously going to create some sort of a disconnect. It's going to raise a red flag. Person's going to feel like you're being disingenuous with them when you're communicating with them. But you want to subtly start to identify the types of words and phrases that this person uses and then start using them and integrating them into the conversation. Hey guys, if you enjoy this type of content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you get updated when I release more videos like this. It really does help the algorithm. And make sure you click the first link in the description so you can get access to a free resource I've set up just for you. The second hack is the because hack, which is where you use the word because to justify either a statement or a request that you have for that person. So in his best-selling book, Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini, which was written over 40 years ago at this point in time, they tested the power of the word because through a research study where they put a girl in line with a bunch of people waiting to make photocopies, and they wanted to test the compliance rate that she could get from people by asking them if she could cut them in line and changing the way she framed that question. And so when she said, hey, can I cut in front of you to make some copies? A small amount of people let her cut the line. When she said, hey, can I cut in front of you because I'm in a rush? More people let her go in front of them. When she said, can I cut in front of you because I'm in a rush, because I need to make some copies, even more people let her go. So every time she added a justification using the word because, the compliance rate went up. But if you pay attention, the last statement that she made really doesn't make any sense. What she said was, can I cut the line because I'm in a rush, because I need to make some copies? Well, everybody on that line needs to make copies. So her justification isn't even logical. It doesn't even make sense. But the thing is, the human mind doesn't even think that far ahead. The human mind equates the word because and justifications with logical reasons why we should either believe what the person is saying or we should grant them the request that they are making to us. So anytime you make a claim about something or you make a request about something to someone, you should always try to integrate the word because into the statement, because it will make the other person feel like whatever you are saying is logically justified. The next one is what I call conversational steering, and this is where you use assumptive questions to steer the conversation. So, for example, if I was on a strategy session with a potential client, so I help business owners create marketing campaigns that generate new clients, customers, and sales consistently and predictably for their businesses. And sometimes I do strategy sessions with people where we'll sit down for 90 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever it may be, and they'll explain their current situation to me, their business model, what they sell, what kind of marketing they've done before, blah, blah, blah. And I will determine the best course of action for them. And if it's a good fit, for us to work together, I will let them know. If it's not, I'll also let them know that. But if I do feel like this could be a good fit and there's a lot of potential there for the both of us, and now I've decided that I want to try to get this person as a client, I will use assumptive language. So instead of saying something like, if we were to work together, I would say, when we start to work together. So that simple shift is alluding to the fact that I'm already presupposing and assuming that we are going to work together. And there are lots of different ways to do this, but the simplest and the most effective is what I just did, is the example that I just gave you. Just shift your ifs to whens, right? So it's not if we're going to start working together, it's when we're going to start working together. It's not if you're going to take the garbage out, it's when you're going to take the garbage out. It's not if you're going to join the gym, it's when you're going to join the gym. So shifting your ifs to your whens is the simplest and the easiest way to start to use emotional, conversational steering in your conversations with other people. And then the next one is emotional labeling. So emotional labeling is when you call out emotions that you know the other person is experiencing when you're communicating with them. So this is very important because emotional states are super critical when people are communicating with each other. You want to be on the same emotional level as the other person, or at least you want them to feel like you are on the same level with them, because if you're not, it's going to be a problem. So if the person is sad or down about something and you're acting cheerful and happy, they're going to resent you, because here they are in this state of despair and you are completely disconnected from them. If they are frustrated about something and you're acting all zen like the world is perfect, there's going to be a disconnect there. Conversely, if the other person is happy and jovial and they're in a great mood and you're acting like you're miserable, there's going to be a disconnect there. So one of the easiest ways actually to shift someone's emotional state is to first align your emotional state with them. So for example, if a person is in a state of anger or frustration and you want to move them to a state of happiness or peace, sometimes the best approach is not to just jump in there and start telling them why they should shift their mood. The better way to do it is to initially align your emotions with them and share in their anger, share in their frustration. Let them know that they have an ally. Let them know that their thinking and their feeling and their emotions at that particular moment are warranted and justified. And what that's going to do is immediately start to bring their emotional level down, where they stop being resistant. And at that point, that's when you can start to subtly start to bring them to the emotional state that you want them to have. But again, misaligned emotional states are detrimental to effective communication. So you always want to have your emotional state aligned with your audience's emotional state. The next one is the strategic misdirect. So you have to realize that anytime you're trying to influence or persuade someone, whether it's to accept a new idea, an opinion, a belief, to take an action that you want them to take, you're most likely going to encounter resistance. Why? Because persuasion involves change, and change is directly tied to resistance because people tend to resist change. People generally don't like change. They like predictability, they like routines, they like things that to consistently happen over and over again. Generally, they do not like change. Generally, the only time somebody will desire change is if they're in a state of pain and they want that pain to go away, right? That's ultimately when people typically want change, but in most cases they don't. What they want is everything to stay the same, everything to stay predictable, and everything to really stay comfortable. So when you introduce change through the form of persuasion, you typically encounter resistance. And so one of the ways that resistance will manifest itself is through objections. And so in your quest to get this person to think a certain way, behave a certain way, act a certain way, they're going to have objections about things that are involved in that. And your job is to be able to subtly misdirect those objections. Now, there are lots of different ways to do that. But if you can't effectively do that, if you can't effectively lead the objections to agreements, you're going to have a problem. So you need to be able to subtly move that person away from the objection and more toward the payoff. So again, the change that you're asking them to make, there's a balancing act there. Yes, you're asking them to change. Yes, you're asking them to maybe do something that they're initially resisting, but there has to be a benefit. There has to be a payoff involved for that person. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't want to do it. Your job is to constantly tie the benefits and the payoffs to the steps that you're asking them to take. So, for example, if I'm trying to convince someone to go on my nutrition plan and it involves counting calories, but that person hates counting calories, well, I'm going to keep tying the fact that counting calories is ultimately going to lead them to walking on the beach with their shirt off and feeling good about themselves, if I've learned that that's what's important to them. If maybe they told me earlier in the conversation that it's not really about looks, that it's more about longevity and living a long time to see their kids grow up and get married, then I'm going to tie that benefit to the objection and to the thing that they don't want to do. So you need to be able to lead attention away from objections. The more attention they give to their objections, the more reasons they have to say no. So you need to move them away from the objections and toward the benefit and toward the payoff. The next one is personalized framing. And this is where you shape your message to match their core values and needs. So one thing you need to understand is that all great communicators understand that communication is not about them. It's about the people that they are communicating with. And if your job and your goal is to be a great communicator, is to be influential, is to be persuasive, What you need to do is stop thinking about what you want. Stop thinking about the way you see the world. Stop thinking about your values, your opinions, your beliefs, and instead think about how you can convey your ideas and your points in a way that is still true to you, but resonates with them based on their opinions, their beliefs, their outlooks, their worldview. Because if you don't, you're just going to run into a brick wall. And this is one of the things that separates poor communicators from master communicators. Poor communicators only care about what they have to say. Now, I'm going to say this is the way it is, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and that's the end of it. And what they don't realize is that most people just walk away from them rolling their eyes, resenting them, and thinking they're an idiot. When instead, they could have taken a more elegant, calculated approach and said, okay, I know that this person values this. I know that this person has an opinion about this. So I want to convey this point that I truly believe is right. But how can I convey this in the best way possible based on the way they see the world? Because if you're only doing it based on the way you see the world and that person doesn't see the world the same way you do, you're going to run into resistance. And the worst part about it is that it's unnecessary resistance. All this takes is a little bit of thinking ahead, a little bit of time, a little bit of effort to better understand how your audience processes information, what they value, what their opinions are, what their worldviews are, and then maybe just simply tweaking the way you present your information, or maybe using a different metaphor or a different analogy that you know will resonate with them, as opposed to the one that resonates with you the most. And then the last one is unconscious agreement. And this is where you ultimately just get people agreeing with you throughout the entire interaction. So one of the easiest ways to do this is through something called yes sets. So yes sets are sets of questions that you ask your audience that you know they are going to say yes to. This does a few things. Number one, it puts them in rapport with you, because the more someone agrees with you, the more they're going to tend to like you, right? Like we typically don't sit there and agree nonstop with people that we don't like. But the more you agree with someone, the more you tend to like them. That's just a natural byproduct of agreement. The second thing is that the more you get a person to say yes to you throughout the interaction, the more likely they are to say yes at the end of the interaction, because of the consistency factor. So if you've been having a conversation with someone for 60 minutes, and throughout that 60 minutes you asked them 15 questions and they answered yes to all 15 of those questions, and then you ask them to make the final decision that you want them to make, the odds of them saying no are very low, because they've been conditioned for the past 60 minutes to keep saying yes to you. So a yes set is just one form of agreement. There are lots of different ways to cultivate agreement. You could just make statements that you are 99% sure that the person is going to agree with to get them to nod to you. You could use metaphors and analogies that you know favor things that they believe in, right? This circles back to going back to the sixth one that I just mentioned, which is shaping your message around their core values and beliefs. Like, if you don't know what their core values and beliefs are, if you don't know what their worldview is, how could you ever make statements that you know they will agree with if you don't even know what their worldview is? So those two things tie in to each other. Once you understand their values, beliefs, thought systems, opinions, and worldviews, you can then use statements based on those worldviews that you know they will agree with. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. It really does help the algorithm. And if you want, leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know if you've used any of this stuff before. And if you enjoy this type of content overall, then hit that subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification so you get updated when I release more videos like this.